How could I have anticipated that the child who assisted me in setting up the coffee maker would enter my home, only for me to discover that I had carelessly left my toys and some rather intimate clothing strewn across the couch. Not to mention that everything would shift following that instant. Solitude enveloped me. However, as I set out to acquire that coffee maker, the assistance of the gentleman at the store ensured that solitude would not be my companion today. Who could have foreseen that an unseasoned youth would enter my life and steer it in such an unforeseen manner? Allow me to share it all with you. Since the outset, I find myself at the age of 60, having navigated the waters of divorce for 15 years, and now I reside in solitude. Naturally, there were instances that belonged solely to me, cherished possessions that held personal significance. Indeed, I employ them with such frequency that I scarcely realized I had inadvertently left them exposed in the heart of the living room. Perhaps it was merely a routine, or perhaps it served as my means of bridging the chasm of solitude. That morning unfolded with an air of utter normalcy. My sole intention was to purchase a coffee maker and continue with my day. However, it was the young man, Jake, who transformed the situation entirely with his offer of assistance. As I swung the door open and allowed him to enter with the box, I remained blissfully unaware that what began as an ordinary day was on the brink of transforming into something truly extraordinary. At 23, Jake radiated excitement, warmth, and an infectious energy that seemed to light up the room. Upon entering my home, coffee maker in tow, his gaze roamed over each nook and cranny of the space. At that moment, his gaze settled upon something intriguing: the toys and the personal articles of clothing I had carelessly abandoned on the couch. I had grown so accustomed to their presence that it had slipped my mind entirely. To me, they appeared to be the most mundane aspect of the house. Jake offered a subtle smile as he approached the living room and remarked, "You live alone, don't you?" His eyes sparkled with a mischievous curiosity. My face flushed a vivid crimson. It occurred with such abruptness and awkwardness that I found myself at a loss for how to respond. A simple task was at hand. Someone was merely meant to arrive and set up the coffee maker. Ultimately, I kept these intimate aspects of my life to myself. My solitude belonged to me alone, and I had no desire to cast it upon another. "Jake, I implore you, let's pretend you didn't see any of this," I murmured, my voice quivering just a touch. It seemed as though all my desires had abruptly crumbled into disarray. Jake cast his gaze in my direction, a smile gracing his lips. "As you wish," he responded. "However, one cannot simply disregard these matters. They seem to crave attention in much the same way you do." That left me feeling even more flustered. I gradually averted my gaze and whispered under my breath, "Jake, kindly remember to subscribe and activate notifications for more captivating tales such as this one. You won't be able to hold back from sharing your thoughts after you hear this one all the way through. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. I eagerly await your reflections." Yet, with his characteristic warmth and authenticity, he pressed on. He remarked that it is entirely normal to experience such feelings of solitude. His eyes now glimmered with a newfound brilliance. "Each of us carries our own set of desires, wouldn't you agree? Yet, there are moments when such things simply fall short, don't you think?" The subtle emphasis in his words lingered at the end, resonating with a quiet intensity. It seemed he was making an effort to bridge the gap between us, extending himself in a manner that was simultaneously daring and tender. For a fleeting moment, our gazes intertwined. In that instant, a flicker ignited between us, an irresistible draw, a silent allure, a subtle fervor. Jake's warm gaze enveloped me, a palpable presence that stirred something deep within. With each fleeting second, the distance between us diminished. Each word he uttered resonated deeply within me. In that moment, I came to understand that my emotions were unlike anything I had experienced before. Jake remarked, "I noticed it the first time you came to retrieve the coffee maker," a peculiar spark dancing in his eyes. "You bestowed upon me an emotion unlike any I have ever experienced." After a brief moment of reflection, I crafted my response. What words could possibly convey my thoughts? My emotions were in disarray, yet the struggle against this allure seemed almost insurmountable. "Text, I did the same for you," I replied, a faint smile gracing my lips. Young man, under different circumstances, I would have never entertained the idea of accepting your offer to assist and allowing you into my home. I stated that. Yet, within me, I was aware of a more profound sensation. Somehow, Jake had burrowed beneath my skin. Everything about him, the way he carried himself, the subtle nuances in his speech, the very essence of his being. Utterly serene, undeniably enchanting. The struggle to conceal my emotions from my gaze was becoming increasingly difficult. After a moment of quiet, I finally spoke up. I've been wearing these jeans and this shirt all day. They are constricting my very breath, attempting to alleviate the strain. I shall now retire to change into something more comfortable. Feel free to settle in as if this is your own space. Jake's eyes held mine for a moment longer than necessary. I attempted to divert my gaze, if only for a fleeting moment. Yet, I found myself unable to do so. He captivated me completely. The distance that once separated us diminishes with each passing moment. Ascending the stairs, I donned a sleek, figure-hugging dress with delicate spaghetti straps. I applied a subtle enhancement to my makeup before gracefully making my way to the kitchen. As I descended, my gaze fell upon Jake, poised by the entrance of the living room. His gaze, whether by design or happenstance, was fixed upon me. For a fleeting moment, I lingered, caught in a web of hesitation, as my thoughts danced freely in the recesses of my mind. Very well, I mused inwardly. Young man, your motives are quite evident. You feel like a winning lottery ticket to me. Let us embrace the journey ahead. I pondered this quietly, then feigned ignorance of his gaze as I moved closer to him. Jake, I said, my voice laced with a hint of mischief. Do you find yourself unattached? Do you have a girlfriend? Or do you find yourself in solitude during the night? As I gazed upon him, an ember ignited within me. We found ourselves in such proximity that each word, every gesture, and every fleeting look appeared to resonate with a profound significance. As I beheld the thrill and timid wonder reflected in his gaze, a smile gently emerged upon my lips. Once you've completed the setup of the coffee maker, shall we brew some coffee together? I spoke, hardly aware of the subtle quiver in my voice. Let us engage in conversation. Please share your story with me. As I approached him, a warmth began to blossom within me. Every tiny detail about him draws me closer. Jake settled into a chair, yet he found himself restless, unable to find a position that felt right. I, in contrast, moved closer and positioned my chair directly beside his. As I positioned it securely beneath me, my skirt crept up slightly, just a few centimeters. Yet I was fully cognizant of it. Jake's gaze ascended, lingering just shy of connecting with my own. His attentiveness was palpable, a true reflection of his sincerity. I cast a sidelong glance at him, attempting to measure this newfound intimacy, and offered a smile. With a casual crossing of my legs, I leaned back, resting an arm on the chair's backrest. Were you filled with impatience as you awaited this moment? I playfully teased, seeking to infuse the moment with a light-hearted spirit. Yet, the tension between us steadily escalated. Jake, a hint of nervousness in his demeanor yet unwavering in his gaze, inquired, "How old are you?" His voice trembled just a bit, caught in the delicate balance of astonishment and respect. I believed you stood at 50 feet tall. A glimmer ignited within my gaze. Did he genuinely believe I was 50? That was intriguing and strangely complimentary. A smile crept onto my face, unbidden. Do you prefer those who are 50 years old? I arched an eyebrow, a playful smirk dancing on my lips as I scrutinized him. Every word, every fleeting moment shared between us drew us nearer, ignited by the intensity of the experience. His eyes widened in astonishment. He appeared utterly captivated by my presence. "No, that's not what I intended," he remarked, with a hint of timidity. "Your youth and beauty are truly captivating." His words reverberated within the confines of my mind. A gentle warmth enveloped me, yet, concurrently, a sense of unease washed over me. Being this close now, taking another step, felt painful. A stillness enveloped us, a pause that lingered in the air. With a steadying inhale, I posed the question. Are you in a relationship? Do you find yourself in solitude? In what ways do you allocate your evenings spent in solitude? These were inquiries I was both eager and slightly apprehensive to hear from T. Jake dropped his voice to a whisper, his gaze piercing into mine. I'm alone, he remarked. In that instant, I was utterly convinced he was isolated. Yet, it seemed to embody a solitude he wasn't truly seeking. We exchanged glances for a moment, and I sensed that he could perceive the depth of my stare. A subtle transformation stirred within me as I lingered in anticipation. My emotions began to crystallize rapidly, and I realized it was time to act. That's not how tonight will unfold, I declared, my voice taking on a firmer, more resolute tone. My gaze returned to him, and each word I uttered resonated with significance. In that instant, I realized that everything was on the brink of transformation. Jake, come, I urged, my voice softer than usual yet undeniably more welcoming. With a subtle glance, I directed my gaze toward the room that housed the bed and pivoted without a moment's pause. Certainly, he would comply. I sensed his footsteps trailing behind me, his breath quickening ever so slightly. As we stepped into the bedroom, Jake paused just by the threshold. His shoulders bore a slight tension, yet his expression remained intent, filled with anticipation. I pivoted to confront him, and upon his visage, I discerned a blend of uncertainty and exhilaration. Jake, are you prepared? I inquired, my voice measured and unwavering. I moved in a bit closer, a faint smile playing on my lips as I spoke. My experience speaks for itself. Take a deep breath. There's no reason to feel anxious. As I drew near, I laid my hand softly upon his shoulder. That subtle contact appeared to alleviate a fraction of his tension, yet it simultaneously intensified the thrill coursing through him. In that instant, Jake's vibrant spirit collided with the assurance and resolve I had cultivated through the passage of time. With deliberate grace, I eased the straps of my dress down from my shoulders. The fabric glided over my skin before cascading to the floor. Jake's gaze lingered on me. A blend of wonder, intrigue, and longing filled the air. A flicker of emotion ignited within, yet my demeanor remained composed. I edged nearer to him, the stillness enveloping us as if it were weaving an unspoken connection. My fingertips grazed his cheek, and I held my breath, anticipating his next move. Jake paused for a moment, yet ultimately he inclined himself toward me. His gaze was filled with an unmistakable blend of determination and excitement. His hand gently settled on my waist, and his face inched closer to mine until our lips finally connected. His kiss held the audacity of youth intertwined with a whisper of naivety, yet that very innocence only captivated me further. I retreated gradually, my steps leading me toward the bed. I allowed myself to descend onto it with careful, unhurried motions, the chill of the surface pressing against me. A fleeting chill coursed through my skin, amplifying the anticipation that stirred within me. I cast a glance at Jake. He remained rooted in place, grappling with uncertainty about his next move. Jake, come here, I called, my voice gentle yet inviting. I traced my fingers along the surface of the bed, gesturing to the vacant space beside me. Rest easy. There is nothing to fear. Jake inched nearer, taking his time as he gently settled down beside me. We seemed to be suspended in time, the atmosphere thickening with each passing moment. I turned to him, my hand resting lightly on his chest, and asked in a soft voice, "Have you ever contemplated this moment? Can you envision it, Jake?" Jake's gaze remained fixed on me, unwavering and intense. More than merely envisioning it, he spoke, his voice soft and slightly trembling. Yet I never believed it could truly come to pass. In that instant, every uncertainty was cast aside. We were intertwining not only with our physical selves but also with the depths of our emotions. Neither of us had any idea where this journey would lead, yet there was one truth I held firmly in my heart. The thrill I experienced with Jake was a longing I had been seeking for quite some time. As I lay beside him, the excitement within me blossomed into a surge of bravery. I propped myself up at the edge of the bed, My eyes locked onto Jake as I gradually rose to my feet before him. As I leaned slightly towards him from the head of the bed, our eyes met, intertwining in a moment that held both surprise and anticipation in his gaze. "Jake," I said, my voice gentle yet firm. "This evening, solitude eludes us both." Jake swallowed with difficulty, his gaze unwavering. His silence conveyed a deep understanding of the gravity of my words. His hands clutched the edge of the bed with a fierce intensity, yet his eyes shimmered with newfound courage. With deliberate slowness, I inched closer to his face, cradling his cheeks softly in my hands. "Let us embrace this moment tonight," I murmured, drawing my lips nearer to his. "Refrain from questioning anything. Embrace the unknown without trepidation." Jake's breath came in rapid bursts, yet he remained steadfast, refusing to retreat, even for an instant. In that instant, we were both fleeing our solitude, discovering solace in one another's company. Jake's breath came in rapid bursts. His eyes appeared to be striving to seize every nuance of the moment, as if he wished to engrave it in his memory. He paused for a moment, then raised his hands to my waist, embodying a blend of courage and doubt. The initial reluctance transformed into a fervent longing. I found myself unable to regulate my own breath, yet I sensed a profound moment stirring deep within me. "Jake," I murmured, my fingers softly tracing the contours of his face. "This sensation is overwhelming, and it is truly exquisite." Jake held his gaze steady, responding with a voice that resonated deeply, yet quivered with a gentle warmth. "I share your sentiments, yet doesn't it seem like everything is unfolding at an astonishing pace? This sensation within me is profoundly intense, and it possesses a breathtaking beauty. It's likely evident that I'm venturing into uncharted territory with this." A smile blossomed on my lips. I drew nearer, gently pressing my lips against his forehead in a tender kiss. "Jake, there are moments when life unfolds more beautifully when you allow your thoughts to flow freely. Embrace the moment and let it carry you forward," I said with a comforting voice. Jake hesitated for a heartbeat, then let his hands glide gently from my waist, drawing me nearer as our breaths intertwined and the distance between us vanished. I was aware of this. This moment may very well serve as a pivotal juncture in our lives. In a fleeting moment, Jake, gasping and surrendering completely, allowed himself to be free. As I had predicted, he persisted, and the sensation was nothing short of extraordinary. As I reclined beside him in the aftermath, he appeared so content, as if he had finally released all his burdens. Jake's powerful embrace enveloped me, drawing me in with a comforting intensity. My head lay upon his chest, attuned to the steady cadence of his heartbeat. The cadence of the sound was at once calming and oddly invigorating. Unbeknownst to me, my fingers began to softly explore the contours of his chest, creating delicate patterns in their wake. Jake inhaled deeply, his voice barely above a whisper. "Brittany, this sensation I'm experiencing at this moment. Never have I experienced such tranquility and serenity." His voice carried an intriguing blend of sincerity and astonishment. I smiled, yet I avoided his gaze, my head still nestled against his chest. "Is that so?" I whispered softly. "Indeed, quite so." He persisted, softly gliding one hand to my back, drawing me nearer. "Throughout my existence, I have pursued an elusive something. I never imagined I would pause to savor a moment such as this. Yet, in this moment with you, it renders everything worthwhile." His words enveloped me in a comforting embrace, igniting a warmth that radiated from within. As I reclined, attuned to the soothing cadence of his breaths, I responded, "Jake, simply being in your presence stirs emotions within me that have long lain dormant." "Unique." Jake's fingers glided through my hair, a gentle smile dancing on his lips. "I suppose we've provided one another with precisely what we required," he remarked, lost in contemplation. I raised my gaze just enough to meet his eyes. The expression of honesty and relief etched upon his face conveyed everything that needed to be understood. Then I suggested we simply let it be as it is. Let us fully embrace this moment. Jake nodded slowly, a silent agreement passing between them. We simply remained there, enveloped in one another, allowing the warmth of those moments to embrace us. The stillness and soft glow beyond seemed to be crafted solely for our presence. As I reclined against Jake's chest, I surrendered to the tranquility of the moment, allowing my eyes to flutter shut and the serenity to envelop me. In that moment, a thought quietly slipped into my consciousness. I began to envision the possibility of inviting him to remain here with me, to transform this house, these tranquil nooks and solitary evenings, into something more vibrant with his company. The thought of incorporating him into my life illuminated everything, making it feel more vibrant and complete. Naturally, I was unaware of the journey that awaited us, the thrilling days or profound connections that lay in our future. Yet I was certain of one thing: our narrative was far from its conclusion. This marked merely the inception. Therefore, keep your eyes peeled. If you've journeyed this far, it's clear that my tale has resonated with you in some way. There is an abundance of insights waiting to be unveiled, and you certainly won't want to overlook them. Tap that follow button, enable notifications, and be sure to share your thoughts on this tale in the comments. I eagerly await your thoughts. Feel free to join the conversation in the comments section. Your support is invaluable to me,